And we are live with another episode of the Bleed Lows podcast, a game 3 post-game edition as we are recapping the Dodgers 8-0 win over the New York Mets to put them up 2-1 in this National League Championship Series. But before we dig into tonight's matchup, let's thank our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack, poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. And Carlos, one part of the action today was the Dodgers offense, which kind of exploded for some runs in the second half of the game. For the most part, everything was pretty much close. Dodgers really only had a 2-0 lead for most of the game, but all hell broke loose as soon as the Dodgers got to the Mets bullpen, which is something that we were huge on during the pregame show today. All in all, the Dodgers just got back to their roots and what got them the game one win, what got them the win over the Padres, what got them here in the first place during the regular season is that they were patient, they chose what pitches to hit, and they ended up blowing out their opponent yet again. Carlos, are you surprised for the outcome for today's game?
Well, I knew the Dodgers were going to win. I didn't think they were going to get another shutout. This is what their fourth shutout win.
Third shutout in the postseason. They lead all of the major league teams left in the postseason right now, which is surprising because I was told by everybody that the pitching just wasn't there for the Dodgers this year, and it seems like that isn't the case.
Yeah, no. So Bueller was impressive. We had said we got. I got some of what we got right was we said Bueller would go four. He went four. He had the six strikeouts was surprising. I thought he was going to have. I actually made a bet with my brother in Arizona, and so I thought he was going to get three plus. So we covered that. Um, yeah, he was really impressive. He had a lot of swing and misses. I think they were saying that he hasn't had this many strikeouts or this many swing and misses since like 2021, I think they were saying. Some very long time ago. So, yeah, hats off to Bueller. Yeah, give him his props, you guys. Definitely. JP, you're right. I mean, he was what we expected for out of him. 4 innings, shut him out. It was great. I thought he'd give up at least one or two runs, and he proved me wrong. And yeah, I feel very confident in Bueller for the rest of the postseason. No more, saying that this guy can't go at least four, and I think he can actually go more. The only bad inning he had, I think the second inning, he didn't allow any runs, but he threw 32 pitches. He somehow got out of the jam. He bases loaded, and he struck out both Alvarez and Lindor. So that was great. So yeah, Bueller was the old Bueller that we know. So, he's a different pitcher now. You saw a lot of, breaking pitches. He throws, I mean, his curveball, I think it was a curveball that he struck out Lindor, which was beautiful. So, yeah, hats off to Bueller. I'm excited. I feel confident. Like I said, I feel confident in him moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, let's stay with Bueller right now because I mentioned before the game, I honestly just didn't know what we were going to get out of him because I definitely could have seen a shutout start in the works or at least a 1 run or 2 run ball game from him. But shutting out the Mets, I think that was big because even though he had some strikeout stuff, 6 strikeouts today, 6 more than he had in his last start. The thing I noticed right off the bat was he started pitching from the stretch exclusively, which is something that they mentioned on the broadcast. It's something that he's flirted with throughout the entire regular season, especially when he was on rehab starts. It just goes with Bueller trying to reinvent himself and trying to go into the next chapter of his career because as much as we want him to be that 2021 2020 pre-injury Bueller, he's just never going to be that guy again. And as a major league ball player that is in their 30s, you have to adapt and overcome, age and injury and to stay in this league. So credit to him. He made the adjustment. The key thing today that kept the Mets hitters off balance and John Smoltz, you know, I usually don't like John Smoltz's, in-game analysis. I usually think he kind of has like the old man syndrome throwing up the fist, but I think in terms of pitching and who he likes, he does give really in-depth breakdown. And you know what he mentioned with Buehler is that he was mixing it up. He was going to different quadrants of the plate, and he was being aggressive. And a pitch that he threw today that he only threw 4% of in the year was that sweeper, and you saw him using that aggressively today to these Mets hitters to keep them off balance. But anything else you saw from Buehler today, Carlos? Before I segue to Steve, who joined the party.
Yeah, no, I like this confidence. Before the game and during the pregame, we had mentioned that Pete Alonso just kills Bueller. Bueller, obviously, I did his research and figured a way to keep him quiet, struck him out his first at bat, and then he did that. He looked like he just missed that one out, the fly ball to left field. Looked like he hit it harder, but it's just a routine fly ball. But yeah, overall, I mean, they got 3 hits, all singles, and it was really like I said, the second inning where he had those 2 walks in between the 2 walks and that single. So that was it. Besides that, man, Bueller looked amazing. I think if he didn't have that the second inning where he threw so many pitches, he probably would have gone 5.
Steve, thanks for joining the party. We're
Glad to be
obviously
here.
kind
Glad to be here. I'm having a little celebratory wine, perhaps, before I come on.
there you go. We're celebrating this win because the Dodgers, they come back, they wash that second game. Bueller gives us a somewhat vintage performance of himself, and that's kind of what we're going into right now. We talked a lot about Bueller before the game today. What did you see from him to give him that start today that he had?
Well, again, he didn't have his super best stuff, but he had a lot of good stuff there. I mean, the swing and miss was back. The strikeouts were back. He was in a little bit of trouble early, but he worked out of it. It reminds me of that one time in the playoffs a couple of years ago when he had a bases loaded, nobody out situation, and he just struck out 3 guys in a row. That second inning was vintage Walker Buehler there. I mean, because what, it was a walk, and then it was like an infield single, and then what is it, another walk? 2 walks and an infield single, right? And he just bared down, and well, striking out Francisco Alvarez is no real big trick right now, but Lindor came up, and that beautiful curveball that he threw to Lindor on the 3-2 count, man, that was the good stuff right there. So he was doing everything we needed him to do. I mean, like I don't know if we'll ever see 2018 Walker Buehler again or 2020 Walker Buehler again, but this kind of Walker Buehler is good enough for us.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it as once you joined, it's kind of, Bueller has reinvented himself, if you will. He's not going to be that guy, pre second Tommy John surgery, and he's finding different ways to pitch. So credit to him, credit to the Dodgers bullpen. We knew they were going to be aggressive into this game. I saw some people saying, Bueller was only at 90 pitches. You could try to get him to go for maybe that 5th inning, but when you looked at, who was coming up that inning, it was the top of the Mets order with Lindor,
And what
who
the
had a
score was.
yeah, the
It's
score was
still
a
a
lot
tight game
closer
at
than
that
what it
point.
was. Yeah, so I thought the Dodgers made the right move, especially going to Kopech. Shut down the top of that lineup. Mets hitters were pretty much off balance all day. Dodgers pitching, as with the Mets, they were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position, and then they left 8 runners on base. So Dodgers did their job. Defense did their job. They got a couple of double plays in there. Um, Offense. Obviously, it was closer for most of the game until that 8th inning. Carlos, what did you see from the Dodgers offense today? Because I feel like they did exactly what we thought they were going to do. They were very patient at the plate. They got a lot of walks. I think total today, how many walks did they have? 7 walks. 7 total walks today. Obviously, if this Mets pitching staff against the Phillies didn't have this issue with the Dodgers offense, they are, and the Dodgers are making them pay. This is 2 losses now for the Mets where they've lost by 8 or more runs. What is your takeaway from this offense today?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, 7 walks, 10 hits. That's 17 guys getting on base. It's going to be really hard to manage that for any team. And, eventually at some point, that team's going to break through. The second inning when they scored the 2 runs, it was like finally the baseball gods were on our side, and Dodgers were getting all these lucky breaks, the ball hitting off the pitcher, I think twice. So that worked well. Also, that shot Edmund hit in center field. I mean, who's the center fielder? Is it? It's not Vientos. Who was
Taylor.
it? Taylor. Taylor. What a catch! What a catch! I mean, Edmund smashed the crap out of the ball, and he made a nice catch. Then we go to the sixth, and Mr. October, the new Mr. October. I'm not talking about Reggie anymore. It hit a home run. It hit a 2-run home run, and who was on base? Edmund was on base after getting a single. So, that was great. And then finally the eighth inning when we see Otani staying consistent, only getting hits when people are on base, and it happened again. And they were actually talking about it, and sure enough, he smashes the ball into the upper deck of the right field for a 3-run home run. So, and then like Cody says, and then Muncy also consistent, hitting home runs at, I don't want to say garbage time, but I guess it's kind of garbage time in the ninth inning. But it's great. Muncy had a great game, you guys. He was 2 for 2, 3 walks, 2 runs scored, RBI. So he was great. And the move with Smith, I guess it proved to be right. I mean, Smith was 2 for 4. He had 2 hits, had a run score and an RBI, and and Kiké is keeping it going, and that's why I'm saying he's Mr. October. He was 2 for 5. Yeah, he's 2 for 5, 2 runs and 2 RBI. So yeah, overall, Dodger lineup throughout, they look good. Today was just like I think a lot of the people on the chat had said earlier, or someone said, if we get 7, we're going to win. Definitely. If we get 7, it would be really hard to beat the Dodgers, especially with our really good rested bullpen.
Steve, we mentioned, Otani's weird, postseason split where there's no runners on. He still doesn't have a hit. But, I guess it really doesn't matter because if you put runners on, that's where it really counts, right?
Yeah, I mean it's probably one of those statistical anomalies that will come out in the wash eventually, but it kind of makes sense because if there's nobody on base, they're kind of pitching him away, making him chase pitches, and when there's somebody on base, they don't have that luxury of walking another guy into and facing Mookie Betts with probably 2 or 3 guys on base. So I think when you have to pitch to Otani, he does well. When you don't have to pitch to him, he expands a little bit and is not the same hitter. So I mean, we that's something that maybe his hitting coach can work with him on, but at present, I guess if it ain't broke, I mean, eventually we'll need him to start a rally sooner or later, right? We want the leadoff guy to start a rally occasionally.
Yeah, we want the leadoff guy to start off the inning, especially for the rest of the batting lineup. I got to give the guy the flowers because Max Muncy, I know we want to say garbage time home run because he's had a few of those, late innings, the lead's already, built. But, today's performance is just, he goes 2 for 2 with the home run, 3 walks. That's just, that's like Max Muncy at his peak. He is patient. He will take a walk.
It's 8 consecutive plate appearances he's reached base. So
yeah. So he finds a different way to get on base. I've said it to my friends. I've said it to anybody. I'm never going to argue balls and strikes with Max Muncy. I think he knows the zone better than anybody. And so far as OPS in the playoffs, he's dining it at 1.078. So early, I mean, like if you're talking about, postseason MVP, Max Muncy's kind of getting up there. Tommy Edmonds along those lines as well. And then honestly, if we get a really good start in Game 5 by Jack Flaherty, he would be up there as well. So, but Max Muncy just got to continue doing what he's doing in the bottom half of this Dodgers lineup. Interesting, fact, they mentioned it on the broadcast, and I think the Dodgers tweeted it out as well. Max Muncy tied the franchise record for most home runs in the postseason at 13 today. I'm pretty confident he will break that record during this postseason run. Anything other with the offense you guys want to talk about? Because like I said, most of the game it was 2-0, and then they started chipping away a little bit more. 2 runs in, I think, the 6th, and then it really broke open in the 8th and the 9th inning.
Well, I think it proves the kind of premise that we've been operating under, is that the Mets bullpen is not that great. Once Severino was out of the game, that's when we started to add on and add on and add on until it was, 6 runs worth of adding on. So, the Mets bullpen just doesn't scare me. It's just not that great of a bullpen. Um, I mean, they have Diaz, but even Diaz is I think I wouldn't want to call him damaged goods, but he's not what he used to be. And in order to have Diaz in the ball game, you have to sort of be a little closer than 8-0. So these Mets relievers are just not showing us much, are they?
Yeah, I think getting to the bullpen was the key to this entire series, because if you're going to take someone's bullpen over the other, it would be the Dodgers bullpen. I mean, the next closest one, or you could say is even, is the Yankees bullpen and what they're doing in the American League this postseason. But the Dodgers, kind of what they've been tasked with the starting rotation, with all the situations that they've been in, they've kind of lived up to the moment, besides the little blip in game 2, which you could argue really wasn't a bullpen game. They kind of just threw, their 5th starter in there who they weren't confident in starting a game. And, it is what it is. There's an argument to be made, Carlos. We were talking about before we just went off on air, that, if the Dodgers, say, quote unquote, didn't punt game 2, they would be up 3-0 in this series right now. So, I mean, that just shows, and we mentioned it during the pregame, where I didn't think the Dodgers revealed too much of their cards in game 2, and they did that for a reason, to put in the high leverage guys today. And they still used a couple of them. Kopech, Brazier, and Trinan all got innings. But because of that lead, Ben Kasparius gave them 2 innings to close this game out. How big is that for the next 2 games of this series, Carlos?
Yeah, no, Ben was great. We had called it. We said after they had scored after the Otani home run, we're like, okay, well, we don't need to put Phillips in and don't let Trinan pitch another inning. We said, hey, Ben's going to come in, and sure enough, he came in. Yeah, he was great. Threw 31 pitches, had 3 strikeouts. I mean, that guy is looking really good. I mean, my son's like, who is this guy? I'm like, well, Dodgers had a lot of injuries. This guy found his way. What was the right guy at the right place, and he looked good when they called him up, and that's how he ended up on the playoff roster. So he's going to be a big. I believe he's going to be a big part of the future for the Dodgers. He looked good. Yeah, we didn't use a lot of. I mean, even though we used Kopech, it was 12 pitches. Trinan, 11 pitches. Frazier, he kind of got. There was a single, a walk, but he got bailed out with a double play. But he threw 20 pitches. So overall, they're pretty rested. So hopefully tomorrow, Yamamoto can go. I'm hoping he goes at least 6, and then we can use like Banda, Phillips, and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I did want to mention one thing about the offense. The bottom of the lineup was amazing. They were 5 for 13. So they are holding it down. They're doing everything they can. The middle is struggling, but the bottom is just outstanding.
Yeah, and I think with the bullpen usage today, I saw someone tweet it out. I believe it was Blake Harris, where they were more than likely going to use Kopech and Trinan and Brazier, to no matter what the score was, because you have to think it would have been their 4th or 5th day off without throwing in a game. So no matter what the score is, they got to get these guys innings. They got to get them work. They got to get them to stay hot. To your credit, like you said, Carlos, low leverage and not a lot of pitches, 10, 11, 12 pitches. That's nothing to a bullpen arm. They're 100% going to be available tomorrow. And if they don't pitch tomorrow, then they're going to pitch on Friday's game. So Dodgers are in well positioned these next 2 games. But Steve, the bullpen plan today, it worked. Buehler gave them the start. Is there anything else you noticed from this pitching staff today? Because Kasparius was good, the bullpen was excellent, and Buehler pitched through 4 very hard fought innings.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have drawn it up any better, that we didn't use all of our high leverage guys. We got 4 shutout innings from Walker Buehler. I mean, they weren't the prettiest shutout innings in the world, but they were good, solid, well pitched innings that hard fought, as you said. So, and Evan Phillips still hasn't been used in this whole series. And yeah, I think the way Kasparius is pitching I think, you might start thinking about maybe him instead of Ryan Brazier a little bit, because he's really sort of on a heater here, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Brazier is probably like the weakest link in the bullpen right now. He does have the highest ERA of those arms in terms of, actual bullpen arms, not including Landon Knack in that category. And Henriquez has only gotten, 2 chances to kind of lower his ERA. So I'm not going to include him into that bunch as well. Brazier's been the guy to get innings. And he just hasn't been able to get it done. Yeah, I think Kasperius does deserve a little bit more credit. I think he deserves an extra shot to get more meaningful innings. But if his role is just a mop-up guy at the back end, as long as he's not giving up runs or hits, I mean, he's doing his job. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, I like how he's looking. Yeah, and Honeywell is looking good in his duty on Monday. So I I'm feeling very good about the bullpen where it is. We were very hard on Dave Roberts for being a little passive with the bullpen on Monday, but given the fact that we're up 2-1 and we got our two best pitchers shoving on Thursday and Friday, it's a pretty enviable position in the old catbird seat, as Red Barber used to say.
And let's, I don't ever like getting too far ahead of ourselves because, give credit to the Mets. They are here for a reason. They beat two
Sure.
really good teams. But we talked about during the pregame show, if the Dodgers win this game, they are in prime position to kind of take this series. They are in the driver's seat. I don't think there's any argument around that, even if you're not a Dodgers fan and you're listening to this. Carlos, outlook for these next two games: Yamamoto tomorrow, Jack Flaherty game 5. I mean, what are you realistically expecting? Can the Dodgers close it out here, or are you expecting them to get 2 more wins in a row?
Yeah, I think so. The reason for that would be that whatever the pitch plan or the calls are, they're going to continue this. We had mentioned it before. The Dodgers have really only had one bad inning against the Mets, and that was the second inning of the second game, and that was Knack who didn't execute his pitches. After that, they allowed one run. I think it was in the eighth or the ninth when Henriquez allowed one run. So they've only allowed, what's that? So that's only nine, so seven, so that's 16 innings. They've scored one run in 16 innings. I mean, we're doing the same. They're doing the same thing that we did to the Padres. So we're shutting them down. Last week we won 8-0 on Wednesday, and now we win 8-0 again on Wednesday. So Wednesday's a good day for the Dodgers. I mean, 4 shutouts. It is 4 shutouts in the postseason. I mean, I'm sure the Dodgers are headed to some sort of record, but yeah, the way the Dodgers are structured, we've been saying this. The starting pitching, if it can go 4, 5, 6, the bullpen is just kind of lights out right now. So, and we're getting that kind of like that lucky, like I don't know if it's luck, but we're getting these guys rested. So we're like having days off. They're getting rested, the travel days, and it's like it's worked out perfectly. So yeah, I think right now with Yamamoto going tomorrow and Flaherty on Friday, I think we have a really, really good chance of closing this out in New York in 5, which
And,
was my
and
prediction.
Steve, and Steve, you mentioned, with this win, the Dodgers would be in the driver's seat in this one. Tomorrow's starters, you got Yamamoto, who's looked really good. Game 5 in the NLDS looked excellent. You anticipate him to continue that going into New York tomorrow. It may get a little interesting with the lefty on the mound for tomorrow for the Mets. Jose Quintana has been a veteran in this league for a while. Dodgers have faced him in the postseason before, the infamous, 3-home run by Kiké Hernández. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow if you want to call your shot. What are your anticipation for tomorrow and the game after that? Because like Carlos said, I mean, I feel like the Dodgers are in the driver's seat and they're in a really good situation compared to every other year that we've watched postseason baseball.
Yeah, I think that they are in a good spot. I think they're even that we're in a good spot. I think there should be some urgency to close it out in 5 because we're the whole pitching staff is sort of taped together with duct tape at the moment, right? And the less that we have to have these guys go through innings, the better off it is. So if we can finish it in 5 and have nobody pitch, and they, because it seems like the Yankees are pretty much in control of that series. I don't know how far it will go. Cleveland's going back to their home ballpark, so they're probably going to put up a little bit of a fight there, but it seems like the Yankees are probably going to have a short series. So in that case, I think it was I saw Plaschke talking. Bill Plaschke of the LA Times was talking, and he was saying that he thought that the Dodgers would win, but that they would be completely burned out and by the time the World Series showed up. And there is a danger of that, and that's why I think there should be some urgency to Game 4 and Game 5 to win it here. Refund everybody in LA's tickets and just go on to the World Series, be tanned, rested, and ready, and have a fully rested pen, fully rested starters. They can configure it any way they want. They won't be forced into any starting rotation that they don't want. I mean, everything would be roses if they could finish it in New York. If they have to come back to Los Angeles and for a Game 6, things get a little dicey after that, don't they? Because you say, okay, it's going to be a bullpen game, I guess, in 6. And
Yeah,
then
their decision to go with Flaherty
and
Game
then
5
Buehler
would
in
mean
7, I guess, and that's a bullpen game too, kind of, isn't it? So things get a little dicey if you go back to LA.
Yeah, I think it's the Dodgers, they have the mindset right now that they want to wrap this up. They've had the mindset since postseason started. Everyone was picking, against the Dodgers, same old Dodgers, first round, early playoff exit. They're not going to get the job done. Players have obviously heard that. If you've seen the post game celebrations from, the division series, that'll tell you everything you need to hear from what they said in that clubhouse. You know, I hope they wrap it up quickly for my sake. That way I can just get a mental reset before an inevitable World Series. But again, I'm going to take it one game at a time, and then we'll go from there. And if they get it done in these next 2 games, then awesome. I mean, there's really nothing else you could ask for from this team right now. I mean, nobody thought they would be in this situation, 2 games away or 2 wins away from the World Series, given all the injuries that they've suffered this season, especially in the last, 2-3 months of the season. So, going to be a big 2 days. And all pressure's on the Mets as well, because they want to get a win in front of their home crowd, because they're supposed to have home field advantage right now in what is a best A5 series. So any other thoughts before we close it out, gentlemen?
Just a little note for anybody listening or watching is that the World Series tickets go on sale tomorrow morning. So log on at 10 o'clock Pacific time, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if you want those tickets, you got to get them tomorrow, or you will have to deal with StubHub.
Carlos, any closing comments before we end up this post-game show today?
Yeah, just some of the comments on here. Someone from Fresno, awesome win. Yes, it was. Roy saying the Dodgers, the opposite is true. The Dodgers could take momentum into the World Series instead of sitting and waiting. I would say that, you know what, even if they close it out on Friday, I believe Roger was saying that they would start on Tuesday if the Yankees swept.
Yeah, if
But
they're
if they
two
do,
short series, they would start on Tuesday. They would
right,
shift
and then
everything a couple days.
correct. But if they go 7, they still have 3 days off. They wouldn't start the World Series till Friday. So nevertheless, it's still it's gonna be there'll be a break in between. But yeah, I mean, everything right now is looking at Dodgers' way. I feel confident tomorrow. I think Yamamoto will be a lot more like his second outing as opposed to his first one. I think he's built the confidence. And like I said, I think the Dodgers have figured out how to pitch to these Mets players. And, yeah, they look good. They look good. I'm excited for tomorrow, and I'm excited to hopefully, like I said, close it out on Friday and, and move on to the World Series.
Yeah, vibes are extremely high right now. Dodgers are firing on all cylinders, even despite a loss in game 2. They made it a close game compared to what it was after those first 2 innings. We will be back tomorrow for the pregame show. Obviously, Yamamoto getting the ball. We're expecting a good start from him to push it to a 3-1 series lead. But obviously, like I mentioned before on the pregame, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you have the alerts on. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. We're going to be aiming higher each day of this postseason run. And then DodgersBeat.com. We got a lot of content over there. I know Steve Webb's been, his fingers have been typing away out on there. I've got some pregame stuff. I got the postgame article out today if you want to read, if you weren't able to watch the game. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting stuff for the channel. And Roger is working hard right now behind the scenes, uploading all the post-game interviews from both the Mets and the Dodgers going over tonight's Game 3 win. That'll do it for this episode of the Bleed Lows podcast, this post-game edition. And we will be back tomorrow for Game 4. And this episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. Go Dodgers. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.